Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a screencast-o-matic presentation and recording for the part of the lesson that has looking more at the Tang and Song Dynasties of China's history. Before we get started, please let me encourage you to open up to today's lesson and to scroll down the correct section. And remember that your task here is to answer the key concept questions that coincide with the reading. Please remember that you can replay any part of this presentation for detail, clarity, or repetition later on if you need. Let's go ahead and get started by setting the stage. After the Han Dynasty collapsed in AD 220, no emperor was strong enough to hold China together, so over the next 250 years, more than 30 local dynasties rose and fell. Finally, by 589, an emperor named Wendi had united northern and southern China once again. He restored a strong central government, and under the next two dynasties, the Tang and the Song, China experienced a prolonged golden age. It became the richest and most powerful and most advanced country in the world. The Tang Dynasty expands China is section 1. Wendi declared himself the first emperor of the Shui dynasty, and the dynasty lasted only 2 emperors, from 581 to 618. The Sui emperor's greatest accomplishment was the completion of the Grand Canal, and this waterway connected the Huanghe, or the Yellow River, and the Tianjin. The canal provided a vital route for trade between the northern cities and the southern rice production region of the China-Chang Delta. About 1 million peasant men and women toiled 5 years to dig the more than 1,000-mile waterway. Perhaps as many as half the workers died on this project, and thousands more toiled and died rebuilding the Great Wall. The endless labor on state projects turned the people against the Sui dynasty, and overworked and overtaxed, they finally revolted. In 618, a member of the imperial court assassinated the second Sui emperor. Tang rulers create a powerful empire. While short-lived, the Sui dynasty built a strong foundation for the great achievements of the next dynasty, the Tang. The Tang dynasty ruled for nearly 300 years. And the Tang emperor who began these achievements was Tang Taizong. His brilliant reign lasted from 626 to 649. Under the Tang rulers, the empire expanded. Taizong's armies reconquered the northern and western lands that China had lost since the decline of the Han Dynasty, and by 668, China had extended its influence over Korea as well. The ruler during the campaign in Korea was Empress Wu Zhao, and from about 660 on, she held the real power while weak emperors sat on the throne. Finally, in 690, Empress Wu assumed the title of emperor for herself, the only woman ever to do so in China. Tang rulers further strengthened the central government of China, and they expanded the network of roads and canals begun by the Sui. This helped to pull the empire together. They also promoted foreign trade and improvements in agriculture. Scholar officials. To manage their large empire, the Tang rulers needed to restore China's vast bureaucracy, so they did this by reviving and expanding the civil service examination system, begun by the Han Dynasty. The relatively few candidates who passed the tough exams became part of an elite group of scholar officials. Now, in theory, the exams were open to all men, even commoners. However, only the wealthy could afford the necessary years of education. Also, men with political connections could obtain high positions without taking the exams. Despite these flaws, the system created a remarkably intelligent and capable governing force and class in China. Before the Tang Dynasty, a few noble families dominated the country. As the examination system grew in importance, talent and education became much more important than noble birth and winning power. So as a result, many moderately wealthy families shared in China's government. The Tang lose power. To meet the rising costs of government, Tang rulers imposed crushing taxes in the mid-700s. These brought hardship to the people, but failed to cover the cost of military expansion and new building programs. Moreover, the Tang struggled to control the vast empire they had built. In 751, Muslim armies soundly defeated the Chinese at the Battle of Talas, and as a result, Central Asia passed out of Chinese control into foreign lands. After this time, border attacks and internal rebellions steadily chipped away at the power of the imperial government. Finally, in 907, Chinese rebels sacked and burned the Tang capital of Chang'an, and murdered the last Tang emperor, a child. Please proceed to the next section here. That's part of this reading.